What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Taylor Hinton Speaks His Mind, the number one online health and fitness podcast for millennials. Today is Form Friday, and as you guys know, on Fridays, what we do is pop into our Lift and Learn community, take a look at the videos that our clients have posted, and give them specific, critical feedback on exactly what they're doing right, and more importantly, what they're doing wrong, so that we can get the most out of them and just see a ton of progress. That being said, I'm going to go ahead and open up my community page here, and then I will share my screen. If you're watching on Instagram, you're seeing a lot of things that I wouldn't normally show you, but it's nothing compromising to anybody, so that's fine. And we have a few clients that have posted a bit in here, so this may be a bit of a longer one, but let's go ahead and get it done. So Allie's been hitting a ton of PRs, and let me go ahead and share my screen so you guys can see what's going on. Obviously, if you're listening to this on audio only, you're not going to be able to see anything, but this is always uploaded, excuse me, onto YouTube as well, so you can watch it there. So Allie, she has a regular RDL. Her goal is to hit 260 pounds on her RDL, and she wants to have a 300-pound conventional deadlift. I think she said on the trap bar, but either way, we're going to be looking at her RDL, I think. I think I curved my back a tad, but Taylor can correct my mistakes. Yes, I can. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what we got running. So I want to just make sure that this is an RDL because that's what she has stated. This doesn't look like an RDL. This looks like a regular, like a conventional deadlift, Allie. So I think that's the first thing is regular RDL. Goal is 260. So you're calling this an RDL. This is not an RDL. Okay. Here's why it's not an RDL. First off, I mean, like this doesn't automatically make it an RDL, but if you were doing Romanian deadlifts, I would highly encourage you to start from coming out of the safety racks or the J hooks with that weight, even if it's heavy, because you should be able to take one step back, one small step out of the rack just to get yourself in position, rather than having to legit conventional deadlift the weight off the ground and then start your RDL. That's a lot of energy. So, which one is going to cost less energy? It's going to be you just stepping out of the J hooks or the safety racks, just one small step to get you clear of the actual rack, and then go ahead and start your actual lift. So that would be the first thing because you have to conventional deadlift this. Like this is a conventional deadlift. You have to do that to get this weight up before you even start your rep. And this is heavy ass weight. You're doing 3 reps of RDLs right now. So yeah, don't waste your energy doing this. Here's the next reason why this does not look like a Romanian deadlift. You have a lot of knee bend and you're making sure that the bar comes all the way down to the ground. So with a Romanian deadlift, there needs to be some knee bend. I'm going to play this back a little bit slower. There needs to be some knee bend at the start. So we're going to pick that weight up. Okay. So your knee bend will probably be right there. Like that is all the knee bend that we need. And then what happens when we're doing a conventional deadlift is essentially once that bar gets in line with your knees, that's when you would essentially just squat straight down while keeping your back in this 45-degree angle. That would be a conventional deadlift. So let's see what happens from the knee. From the knee, you start bending the knees more, bending the knees more, bending the knees more, all the way down to the ground. And then you're doing, and this is a bit of a side of the actual technique of the deadlift itself, but you're doing this CrossFit style touch and go. Now, if we were doing this for like as many reps as you can at 245 or whatever this weight is that you have, 235, then I would say, yeah, great. Like that's what the objective is. It's a performance-based thing. It's a sport. It's a timed thing. That's not the case here, though. What we're going for here is for you to have maximum strength and muscle building. And we want to do that slow and controlled. At least controlled. We don't have to be terribly slow, but we definitely don't want to be using momentum of the ground and bouncing the weight off the ground. This looks like a good CrossFit deadlift, like competition style CrossFit deadlift. But for the sake of getting as strong as you can, that bouncing off the ground using the momentum of the weight, too much. You're bending your knees too much throughout the repetition for this to be a Romanian deadlift. You just have long fucking legs. So we can't just call it a Romanian deadlift just because you're not squatting down a whole lot, right? Like your hips aren't necessarily getting super low but this would still be like a conventional deadlift. So how do we change this into Romanian? So first off, like I said, take it out of the rack when you're doing this, so you don't have to legit deadlift this at RPE 9 before you even start your actual first rep. From here, armpits down to the hips. Keep the chest up nice and tall. Okay, keep the bar nice and close to your legs, and you are going to lower the weight by sending your hips backwards. Okay, watch your hips right now throughout this first rep. Your hips don't go back. They really stay pretty much exactly where they start from start position to bottom. So let's see if I can pause this. Let's get this bullshit out of the way. Excuse me. Will this pause for me if I click here? No, it wants to automatically play. That's super frustrating. So this is where your hips are. Okay, take a mental note. And then you lower this weight and they stay pretty much in the same spot. So instead, what we want to do, let's imagine you got this weight back up again. Good. Armpits down to the hips, big tall chest, arch the low back. And the only way, Allie, that this weight can be lowered is by you pushing your hips backwards behind you. Once you can no longer send your hips back without your hamstrings feeling like they're going to explode, or your knees have to bend more, or your lower back is rounding, that's when you stop. The weight gets lowered only by your hips being pushed backwards. And once you can't push your hips back anymore without having to bend your knees or round your low back, that is your range of motion. So what that means is you're probably going to have a little bit less weight than what you have right now because we're not going to be bouncing it off the ground. You're going to lower it until your hamstrings feel like they're going to explode, which means the weight will not never touch the ground. It will likely not touch the ground at all. And then you're going to pause at the bottom for a split second, just enough for it to become a dead stop. And then you're going to thrust your hips forward to lift the weight back up to the top. So this weight is never touching the ground. That's going to be a lot harder to do rather than using the momentum of the ground to thrust this weight back up. Again, this is like a really good competition style CrossFit deadlift, but it's not good for building your glutes and your hamstrings or even genuinely getting stronger. Like, yeah, you're lifting some big ass weight and you will get marginally stronger doing this. But if we're going to go in there, push some heavy ass weight, spend our time in the gym, let's maximize on the technique that we're using so we can maximize on the strength gains too. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's go next. We got Ali again. First attempt pull-ups without the band. Right. So just for like to maintain our standards, just so everybody knows, this here, that's not a pull-up. You can't push off of something with your feet and be, halfway. I guess your arms were fully hanging when you started this, but you're still pushing off with our feet to get set up. So what I would do to do this properly is get your arms fully extended, Ali. Okay. I want to make sure that there's no one here waiting to jump in on this call. Like, could you imagine if there was like, okay, good. People should be able to just go ahead and join the call without me accepting them. So let your feet dangle, like you need to hang and then pull yourself up. Okay. So good range of motion. She's getting all the way down, fully. Look at this, full stretch in the arms, the shoulders. This is the longest she can make her arms. That's perfect. That's a motherfucking rep right there. So that is two. See what else we got. We got three. Nice. Four. You're spending a little bit of time at the top, not a ton, but you are wasting some energy sitting up here. Look at that. You like have that half a second pause. You might be able to get one more repetition out of this set if you don't hold at the top. It's building more fatigue than it is actually doing anything for you building muscle or getting stronger. So for everyone watching this too, don't like hold yourself at the top to emphasize the rep or to squeeze hard or anything like that. That's just a waste of energy. It's not actually helping you. But yeah, that's a good solid 4 reps there. Nice job. Okay, truly. And yeah, like in terms of feedback, I don't really have any for you. It's pretty straightforward. I mean, with the pull up, everybody, it's let's be, get yourself to a full hang. and then pull up until your chin is at or above the height of the bar. Allow yourself to like get a full stretch in the elbows and the shoulders are rising up to the ears when you stretch back down to the bottom and lower yourself down. Then pull up again. And we could go ahead and critique that, as she's getting weaker, as like she's getting more fatigued throughout the set, her shoulders are rounding forward a little bit, like everybody's do. Mine do too. That doesn't mean just because your form is not 100% perfect the entire time, doesn't mean that you just quit on the rep. That's like the nuance that you'll get with everybody online. There's so many people who will be so obsessed with having perfect technique for every single repetition. And if their rep isn't 100% perfect technique, they'll stop the set short. And ultimately, that means that you're going to leave a ton of gains on the table. So the gray area here is that like if you're new and you're not confident with your weightlifting yet, you're still practicing good technique. You're not really pushing heavy weights yet. Maybe you're doing 3, 4, 5 sets of 6 to 10 repetitions. Like that's a lot of volume for somebody who's pushing themselves. But if you're newer and you're doing a lot of sets and a lot of reps, it's not so that you can build a ton of muscle or get super tired and sweaty. It's so that you can have a much better mind muscle connection. It's so that you can actually have autonomy over how your body is moving. Like good movement literacy has to come before you start lifting heavy weights because when you have good movement literacy, then you can push really heavy weights and be slightly imperfect at the end of your set with your technique while still being safe. Because ultimately, if you're bracing your core really tight and you have a little bit of a compromised technique, it won't be the make or break for you. I know this from personal experience. I know this from looking at professional power lifters, professional weightlifters, like Olympic weightlifters. They're not 100 like when you see those athletes at the Olympic Games, those weightlifters throwing weight over their head, doing power snatches and clean and snatch or clean and press, clean and jerk, stuff like that. They are going for the heaviest weight that they've ever done in their life. And a lot of times they've never touched that weight before in, practice. So yeah, they're gonna just go for fucking broke and they're gonna use their technique that they've built for their entire life to help them with that. But they also know that adding another 1 pound that they've never touched before means that they're likely gonna have a bit of compromised technique. And that's okay because they're going for gold, right? Now, we're not obviously going for gold in the Olympics, but we can still apply the same general principles that if you have good mind muscle connection, if you have good movement literacy, if you know how to brace your core and you have a very strong core and can brace your core very well throughout the entirety of the set, then your shoulders rounding a little bit, it's not going to be the end of the world. Okay. Normally, like 99% of the time, if you ever get injured from lifting weights, you're going to notice signals before something just randomly blows. Like you're gonna feel your back a little bit tighter, a little bit more tender, or something like that. Maybe on a deadlift or a squat on your second out of 3 sets. Maybe your second set, you're like, I didn't feel great. Like I could feel my shoulders rounding. I could feel my spine curling. My spine feels a little bit tender after that. That's not the time to tighten up the belt one more notch and like slap yourself in the face and get hyped up and go for it again. That means that you're not strong enough for that fucking weight and you just got lucky that you didn't get hurt. That's what happens. So listen to your body when you feel that things are starting to break down. You have to, in that case, likely lower the weights, and focus on technique at that point. You're not strong enough yet to lift that big ass weight. In a body weight exercise like a pull up, pretty hard to fuck yourself up. So yeah, go for it. Okay, truly. So you got box squats, incline dumbbell press, and the Pendlay row. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. So her box squat is first, incline press is next, Pendlay rows afterwards. And she's muted the sound. I know that for, you guys posting your videos, maybe you don't want to hear people to hear your music or, maybe there's a random conversation in a big gym that's happening and it's distracting. You don't want that in your video, or maybe you're embarrassed of your breathing. Please just keep the sound on because I want to be able to hear your breathing when you're doing heavy movements like your squats and deadlifts and stuff like that. Now let's give truly a genuine evaluation on this one here. So One thing that we did with Truly's technique when I visited her is we swapped out her box height because she was using this bench over here and it's much, much taller. Truly's like 5 feet tall, everyone. So she can't use a standard bench because she's only getting to like quarter depth height. She had to get a shorter bench. And so this bench looks good. First off, we're taking a look at how she's standing up. So her feet are nice and square, just like she would be in a normal squat stance. She's got the bar on her back, not on her neck, which is good. And when I saw her in person a couple of weekends ago, we really emphasized pulling the bar down onto your back nice and tight. So that's good too. I think that bench is a little bit further back than it needs to be. Put it a little bit closer so you can just take one step back and then be in position for that. The more steps you have to pitter patter your way back into to get in a position, the more energy you're going to be wasting before you get started. And that could be the difference of one more rep or another 10 pounds on the bar, whatever. Let's take a look and see. So that looks really good. So one thing that Truly and I really emphasized was her being violent with her weights. Okay, and this again goes especially for people who have, you're you've been in the program now for like at least 30 days, but probably 60 or 90 days at this point. I need you to be violent when you lift the weights. Okay, control the negative, violent concentric, violent positive. So watch her when she squats down. She's not just like slapping her ass down onto the bench super fast. She's not bouncing off the bench. Watch. There's control as she's coming down. She's not super, super slow. I don't want her to be super, super slow. This is a powerful movement. We're trying to build a base. We're trying to build a lot of strength. So I don't need her to have this slow negative control. We can do that for more isolated exercises to grow muscle. Right now, we're trying to get strong. So she comes down under control, but on the quicker side, and I'm perfectly happy with that. And then we'll have to, look at the rep. Let's look at the first rep again. Just look at how you can see. And truly, I think that you can even be more violent with this, but this is something that we develop with some plyometrics where we're warming up. So for all the clients who, are like, why do I have to do these box jumps? Or why do I have to do like snap downs or depth drops, not death drops. You have to do that because you need to be able to control your body. You need to know what it feels like to absorb force into your legs when all 150 pounds of you, or whatever your weight is, 180 pounds, 120 pounds. You need to learn how to absorb your energy into the floor without collapsing or stumbling or falling off balance. Again, back to movement literacy. If you can't simply jump down off of a 2 foot box without stumbling and falling around, do you think that you're going to be able to effectively lift weight that's 1.5 times your body weight, which is what every woman should be able to do? Like, if you can't do that right now, that's fine because maybe you're not intentional about your workouts, but that's a minimum standard of strength that every woman, every millennial woman should be able to do that. You should be able to squat 1.5 times your body weight. It doesn't mean that you can do it right now because maybe you just haven't been very effective with your workouts or intentional or known what to do. But if you can't yet do that, that should be a priority. You should be able to do that. That's a minimum strength standard. If you're weak, you don't build very much muscle, you have less energy, you're slower, you're more fatigued, you're at a higher risk of injury, higher risk of disease. Build muscle and get strong. If you don't have basic strength, that's your number one problem. And then you can, look at your other goals after that. But get fucking strong first. So when I see you when I see you stand up out of the squat, truly, I want to see your knees like, those what are those? They were rulers, I think, in elementary school and middle school, and you could like bend them and they would fold into a piece. And then or they were like wristbands, maybe you get them at Castle Fun Park. You guys know what I'm talking about? Where they're kind of like these little ruler looking plastic toys. And then you could like snap it onto your wrist and it would stay on your wrist. And then you could just pull it off and it would go back to a straight, stick looking thing again. I want your knees to like straighten out with that same violent, like snapping, uh, uh, look. I don't know. I'm terrible with words right now, apparently. But when you stand up, I don't want you to like gently stand up. I want those knees to like you should be with as much force as you're trying to lift this weight off of the bench from here, continue that same rate of force all the way to the top. don't slow down your effort or your speed on the way up because now, from here to here it's hard, but from here to here it's much easier. I want you to keep using the same level of force all the way to the top. So as you are standing up, that bar is moving faster and faster. And it is, okay, just so you know, like I'll acknowledge the fact that it actually is moving faster, like it's slow there and then fast there. On the top half, it's faster. But I want you to try to be even faster when you do that. That's that ATP, your adenosine triphosphate. This is your all out max effort, as much power and speed as you possibly can give within the first like 3 to 10 seconds at most. For most people, it's like 3 to 5 seconds of everything you got. That's the type of explosive, violent, powerful energy that I want you to have. In terms of your technique, truly, you're good. I like this. This is great. There's nothing that you need to fix. It's just continually challenging yourself to be as violent and aggressive as you can when you lift weights. But that was great. 185 on the box squat. I like to see it. All right, let's see what we got here on your incline dumbbell press with 30 pounds. That ain't no joke. Okay. So what we're looking for, everybody, is that she has a solid base where she can press her feet into the ground, which is going to generate force through her legs, up into her spine and her core, and then through her chest. If your legs are really relaxed, you kick your feet out in front of you. You've done it before. I know you have. And I'm talking to everybody else, not Truly, even though Truly probably has done this before too. Everybody has done this before. When you're doing some type of horizontal press, some type of bench press, and your feet aren't stable, so you start like pitter pattering your feet as you're doing the dumbbell press, or you try to plant your feet, but they're not planted very well. So you kind of like extend your knees out, like kick your legs out in front of you, kick your feet out in front of you. Yeah, we don't want that. We want to have that actual tension of you kicking your feet out, but we want your feet to be basically right underneath your hips so that you can have a lot of power and a strong base. And then from there, you are driving your feet into the ground to try to generate more force up into your chest. Because the more that you can lift, the more muscles that you use, the stronger that you get. This is not an isolation exercise. We're not trying to build up her chest so she has giant female pecs. We're trying to just make her strong as fuck. So the more weight that she lifts, like objectively, she's going to be stronger for it. So it's cool to use leg drive for this. It's not cheating. This is just getting strong overall as a human being. The next thing I'm looking for after she has a good base, which it looks like she does, is that she has her chest puffed up and she's pulling her scapula backwards. That means that there should be an arch in her back. It doesn't have to be a crazy arch. This doesn't have to be like powerlifter style shit. But she does need to have an arch in her back because that arch is creating space for her shoulder blades to actually pinch behind her. If her back was flat on the bench, she would not be able to effectively pull her shoulder blades back and out of the way. That means that when she presses, her shoulders are going to protract away from her body, and that is where injuries happen when you're bench pressing. It's not from having an arched back. An arched back helps prevent injuries in your pressing. So arch, particularly like bench press, not necessarily overhead press, but your horizontal pressing, whether it's flat dumbbell, barbell, incline, when you are pressing with your back resting on a backrest, you need to have an arch so that you can safely pull your shoulder blades out of the way. And when you press, you do not push your shoulders away. Let's see how she presses. See one more time because I paused it and kind of ruined my. This looks good. If she was pushing her shoulders away, then see kind of where like her armpit and shoulder area is, we would see this kind of curve right here. We would see that rising up towards her ear. And she's not doing that. She's keeping her chest puffed up. She's got her scapula pinned back, and she's pressing just by bending and extending the elbow. That's it. And that's really good. And then the final thing is I want to see range of motion. Are the dumbbells making physical contact with your shoulders slash pecs at the bottom? If they are, then great. And it looks like they are. We obviously can't see every little detail here, but it sure looks like she's bringing those weights low enough. A lot of people will just bring the weights down until their elbows are at 90 degrees like this, and that's absolutely pathetic. Because what is the standard here? This is where you go. It's this random weird void space that you think means you've hit depth. But what about when you're at your 10th rep and this is RPE 10? Like you're pushing as hard as you possibly can. Are you actually going to get all the way down here, or are you going to cheat the rep a little bit? And then if you're cool with doing it a little bit there, how much more are you going to cheat the rep next time? You're like, oh, cool. That was way easier than I thought. I'm ready for 35s. Next week, I'm ready for 40s. And all of a sudden, you're on World Star Hip Hop for having the worst incline bench press technique in the entire world. So having standards like physically making contact means that it's pretty hard to fuck it up. It doesn't matter how tired you are. If the dumbbell didn't touch your chest, you didn't complete the rep. So we use that as just like a standard to make sure that we're doing it properly. But also, it increases mobility of those joints. If you're never, you know, using if you're not expressing full range of motion under some level of tension and resistance, then you're not really increasing your mobility very much. So not that that means to do that with like the craziest heavy weights on your first go. You need to like establish good range of motion first before you go crazy heavy. That's just like anything else. You can't just go to one rep max PR on your first time doing something. So yeah. Okay, and then we got the Pendlay row. Pendlay row, for those of you who don't know, just simply means that the bar does need to touch the ground each time, and your back is basically parallel with the floor, so you're not leaning back or cheating the exercise. It's a very strict movement pattern, and it's typically used with a tempo of either 2-2-2-2, so slow, controlled, positive, and negative, or it could be a zero, um, 00x1. Basically, just let the weight slam down into the ground, zero control, rest for a second, and then powerfully explode the weight violently back up to your midsection, right? Um, Genuinely, I don't remember exactly which one it is for Truly. I imagine it's more of the 2-2-2-2, but I'm not going to grade her based on the tempo. I'm just going to go for her technique and her effort here. And this is good. This weight looks like it might be slightly too heavy for you, but honestly, I don't care. What I want from you overall, truly, is more intensity and confidence in lifting weights and pushing yourself really hard. So, what we want to see over time, like don't lower the weights. What I want to see over time is you be able to bring that bar all the way to your belly button for each rep. Right now, we're not quite there, but your technique is really good. This weight is very hard for you, and you're lifting violently and very aggressively. I can see the grit and like muscles in your neck. I can see you tensing up really hard. You have to take a half second pause at the bottom. That's cool. I like that. That's good. So good technique, good effort. We're just going to get a little bit stronger. You're going to stick to this weight and you're going to bring that weight all the way back up to your chest. So nice freaking job, or your sternum slash belly button type area. Okay. And then we've got Ashley Waters bench pressing 115. We just had a call yesterday or the day before, and I think that she can get up to one plate pretty soon. So that'll be really exciting. So barbell bench press, let's take a look. See, and I am going to see if I can hear her breath. So bear with me while this is going to be loud. Can't hear her breath. That's okay. Camera's a little bit further away and music's real loud. It doesn't have to be. I don't expect everybody to be a content creator. So let's see here. I want to see from the very top again. I really wish that EverFit would let me just keep it paused the whole time. So this is something that I like about the way that she's doing this, and this is going to be important for someone like Jasmine to take a look at. And then I know it's not just Jasmine, but a lot of times for you guys, you're not allowing yourself to get set up properly before you actually lift the weight. Truly is a good example of this, of doing it correctly as well. So you can go back to that previous video, the previous videos that I just posted, particularly her squat. But here we go with the bench press. Watch how Ashley lets the weight hover over her chest for just a split second. And the only reason we're doing that is just to make sure that she has full control of the weight. The weight is fully stabilized. It's at a dead stop. She owns the weight, and then she starts her rep. Way, way, way too many times. I see so many of you will unrack the weight and immediately start bringing the weight down to your chest. You can't do that. You have to stabilize the weight. So just watch how she does this. It's subtle, but you can see it. Lifts the weight, pauses, and then starts. Pauses and then starts. So many times I see people literally will go, it'll be all one fluid motion of unracking the weight and starting your press. And maybe, I don't know if the thought process is that, you're saving energy because you're not pausing at the top. I'm telling you, you're wasting energy because there's way more stabilization of you trying to correct the bar path on the way down. Or if you just paused for a second and then controlled the weight down to your chest and pressed up, that would be much better. So on the technique side of things for you, Ashley, I want to see your feet to be underneath your hips a little bit more. Same kind of thing that we started off with Truly, and she was doing the incline press, and traditionally it's a little bit easier to get your feet underneath your hips in an incline press than it is a flat bench, but that's fine. I know you can still bring your feet back a little bit further. So start off, do this. Start off before you lift the weight, before you get set up, when you lay down on the bench, push your body off the so that your head is off the bench. So like scoot your head off of the bench over here, okay? And then while your head's off the bench, pull your feet as far back as you can underneath your hips. Keep your feet there and then slide your body back onto the bench properly. What that's allowing you to do is get your feet underneath your hips even more than your normal mobility would allow for you to do that because you basically plant your feet on the ground while your head's off the bench first and slide back, okay? That's going to create a bit of like tension, maybe some tightness. It might be a little bit uncomfortable in your hip flexors. That's fine. It's not going to hurt you. And that will inherently also create a nice arch in your back. Okay, so make sure you do that first. That's going to help you create a nice arch in your back. Before you unrack the weight, lift one shoulder blade off the bench, pinch your shoulder blade back behind you, pinch it against the bench, and then do the same on the other side. So it's really like you're kind of getting yourself adjusted. If you can watch my video for a second, where you're like, lift the one shoulder off, pinch the shoulder blade against the bench. Now it's stuck there. Do the same with the other side. Pinch that against the bench. And now I got my chest puffed up, my back is arched, and my shoulder blades are pulled back onto the bench. Armpits are back and down, just like in a squat and a deadlift. Okay. So that'll be your setup. And then what it looks like here, it's hard to tell. It looks like the bar is just kind of resting in your hands. And because of that, your wrists are bent back a little bit and you don't have tension in the bar. So we want to create tension in the bar by basically trying to break it like a pair of chopsticks. Grab onto the bar firmly, squeeze the bar in your hand. Even though it's not a deadlift or a rowing exercise, I still want you to squeeze the bar very aggressively. And then I want you to create tension in the bar by trying to bend the bar sideways like this. This is challenging, but keeping this tension all the way throughout your entire rep, throughout your entire set, what that does is it activates your arms, your shoulders, your lats, all of those muscles in your upper body, particularly your lats. Like if you just did this right now and just pretended to squeeze your arms hard and bend your arms like this, you'll feel your lat muscles will activate. So the first time that I ever learned how to do this properly, when I was like, I want to say 20 years old. Yeah, I was 20 years old when I had a personal trainer. He was my bodybuilding coach. He showed me how to do this. The next day after doing bench press, my lats hurt. I did no back exercises, no pulling exercises. My lats hurt after doing this properly. So really focus on trying to bend that bar. Okay. And then lower it all the way down to your chest because you are stopping like an inch or two short. It got a little bit lower than this, but you know what I mean. So bring that bar all the way down to your chest. I do like that you're having this slight arc where you bring the weight down to your lower half of your chest, and then as you press, you're pressing it up over top of your chin. That looks really good. But we need the hips, the feet underneath the hips, a better arch in the back, pinch the shoulder blades back, which it looks like you're doing a good job of keeping your shoulders down at least, and then use your hands, embrace and bend that bar as much as you obviously it's not going to literally bend, but try to break that bar in your hands so you have a lot of tension in there, okay? Okay, what else? We have the Pendlay row at 85 and then seated dumbbell shoulder press 25. Ooh, I just had to crack my back there. Okay. Nice, nice, nice. So if your gym doesn't have the like bigger plates to do this with, that's 115. Oh, 85, I see. So you did, gotcha. Okay, so it wasn't even a 25 on there yet. So you got like a couple tens on each side and a two and a half, something like that. You got two tens at least. So yeah, she won't be able to bring the weight all the way down to the floor because these plates are smaller in diameter than the normal, bouncer plates like Truly had. Truly had only 95 pounds, but she had the full size looking plate, so she was able to bring the weight down to the ground. Ultimately, we're still going for that flat back and then dead stop at the bottom, pulling the weight all the way to the chest. So this is good. I like this. you're starting to, you're losing a little bit of that, your back being parallel. You start to lean up a little bit, and that's just a consequence of not having full-size plates. Most anytime gyms actually have those bouncer plates. The ones at your gym, they might be like they might be colorful plates instead. So if you can try to grab a pair of those, that would be ideal so that you can get yourself into a good position. If not, you could do it out of the safety racks as long as you can bring the safety bars down like really low. Maybe you could call it kind of like a pin row or something, but you have to make sure your elbows can get at full extension and your back can maintain parallel with the floor. So, couple of things that could help a little bit with the overall technique of it or just the positioning of it. But overall, I think that this is really good. Like I have no quarrels with how you're doing this exercise. So, how I was talking about, I said ATP and I kind of brushed over it, this adenosine triphosphate thing. That is something that gets supercharged when you take creatine. And ATP, that adenosine triphosphate, is the superpowered energy that your body uses. Your body has three different energy systems. It has ATP, it has the glycotic system. I'm not using these words properly, by the way. And then there's like the lipo something oxidative system, whatever. And that's like your fat system. So your fat energy source system is working when you're at rest or doing very low intensity exercise like walking, where you can just like nasal breathe, really calm, relaxed, conversational pace. You're doing chores around the house, just sitting down like I am right now. Your body doesn't need a lot of energy very fast, so it uses the most complex energy system. It takes more time to break it down. It's more complicated. It's just, it's not a very readily available energy source. So if you needed fast energy demands right away, your body wouldn't use the oxidative system, the fat system. If it needs a lot of energy right now, like anytime you're doing your weightlifting, especially when you're going for, big heavy weights for 5 to 10 repetitions or whatever, your body uses ATP. It's like this magic superpowered energy. And so when you take creatine, it adds another phosphate, I believe. Yeah, it adds another. So the P in adenosine triphosphate, it adds another phosphate ion to your ATP. It just makes that very fast, high-powered, violent, short-term energy that much better. So everyone needs to take their creatine, and you can actually see it working and then turning off when she's doing this. Watch her first couple reps compared to her last couple reps. So right here, boom, fast. Next one, boom, fast. It's moving nice and quick. She's got a little bit there, and then now she's using her glycogen system, her glycotic system, which is the carbs in her muscles. Okay, because now that weight's starting to slow down. She's trying really hard, but she's burnt out that ATP. There's nothing left, and now she's using the glycogen she has in her muscles. This is not her first exercise, so her glycogen's starting to burn out a little bit, and it's much more fatiguing. Okay, so you can actually actively watch the different systems working in your body. When you start off, boom, lots of power. One. Let's see again. Boom, lots of power. Be aggressive when you're pushing these weights up. I know, Ashley, you can be a lot more aggressive than you are right now. People, when you people, the people, when you're pushing that weight or when you're pulling that weight, the contraction of the muscle, the squeezing of the muscle, right? That needs to be powerful, violent, aggressive, fast. You need to move with a lot of intensity and intention. Don't slowly press the weight up under control. Like she's doing a good job of pushing pretty hard, but you're wasting a lot of energy by resisting going full speed. So go full speed. It should be like boom, like shooting that weight up as hard as you can and as fast and aggressive and violent as you can. In an ideal world, you'd be able to push that weight up so damn hard that your ass would leave the seat. You're pushing up so fast and so aggressively that you can't even, your whole body weight is jumping up off the bench. Now, obviously, I don't want you to do that, but I want you to use that level of speed and intensity when you're pushing the weight up. Because once you get to those last few reps, if you've been kind of slow and like not being extremely forceful in the positive, it's going to be that much harder for you to complete your last few reps. This means instead of you being able to get 10 reps, which your body is capable of doing, you're cutting yourself short at about 8, and it still feels very, very hard, but you were like intentionally making it harder than it needed to be by going slower on the positive. So I can see that you're pushing pretty hard. I think that you can be even more violent. At the bottom, take a big breath, hold it, explode hard, hard, hard as you come up. And then keep that same intensity the whole time. Slow, controlled negative on the recovery. Take that big breath at the bottom as you bring the weight, blow the air out, punch the weight up aggressively and explosively. The actual workout and set itself looks great, but it does still look like you have the weight on the top half of your palm, which is forcing your wrist. Whoa, whoops. Which is forcing your wrist to bend back. Share a photo. If you're tapping a photo, we'll share it away. Okay, cool. I don't want to do that. There we go. So yeah, that's all that I got to say about that. Punch your like knuckles need to be forward here. Put the weight more kind of like right here. Think about it kind of being on a bit of an angle in your hand. It should be on like the meaty, thick part of your palm, not up here on the knuckles. You got it a little bit higher on the knuckles. All right, that was good. I like that. And then Jasmine a week ago. I think this is also. Mhm. See if you can hear her breath here. Yeah. And we actually did cover this. That's right, Jasmine. You're pulling that weight like way back behind you. If you drop that weight, it would hit your butt cheeks on the way down. So make sure you're just pressing it as high as you need to, which is all the way up. But you don't need to pull it so far back. We just want to come like right over top of the skull, and that's far enough. So that is it, everybody. I hope that you guys got a ton of value out of this. If you're a client and you are watching this later, post your biggest takeaways inside the Hinton Nation community after watching. If you're not a client and you're interested in becoming one and learning what it's going to be like for you to change your body, your lifestyle for the rest of your life, shoot me a message on Instagram at HintonNation_coaching. I'll reach out, ask you a few questions, and see if I can help. Peace out.